My boyfriend dated me as revenge against my best friend. I erased him from my life so completely that he realized he destroyed himself. My boyfriend Sutton pursued me for 3 months before I agreed to go on a date with him. He was persistent in a way that felt flattering at the time. He showed up at places he knew I would be. He remembered details I mentioned once and brought them up weeks later. He sent good morning texts and good night messages and everything in between. He made me feel like the most important person in his world. I wasn't used to that kind of attention, and eventually I gave in. We dated for 8 months, and I thought we were building something real. He met my family, I met his. We talked about future plans like moving in together and maybe getting a dog. He said he loved me after 4 months, and I said it back because I believed him. I had no reason to doubt anything he told me. My best friend Oakley had feelings for me that I knew about but never addressed directly. We had been friends since middle school, and somewhere along the way her feelings became more than platonic. She never made a move because she was afraid of ruining our friendship. She told me once when we were drunk that she thought I was the most beautiful person she had ever met. I pretended not to remember the conversation the next day because I didn't feel the same way and didn't want to hurt her. Oakley met Sutton early in our relationship and seemed to accept that I was with someone else. She never said anything negative about him. She congratulated me on finding someone who treated me well. She came to group hangouts where Sutton was present and acted normal. I thought she had moved on from her feelings and was happy for me. I had no idea that Sutton and Oakley had history I knew nothing about. I found out the truth because Sutton got drunk at a party and couldn't keep his mouth shut. I was in the kitchen getting water when I heard him talking to his friend in the living room. His friend asked how things were going with me. Sutton laughed and said better than expected. He said the whole point was to make Oakley suffer by taking the person she wanted most. He said Oakley had rejected him back in high school and he never forgot how humiliated he felt. He said when he found out Oakley was in love with her best friend, he saw the perfect opportunity. He could date me and parade our relationship in front of Oakley and watch her heart break slowly over months. He said the revenge was even sweeter because I actually fell for him. He said I was so easy to manipulate because I was desperate for attention. His friend laughed and called him ruthless. Sutton said Oakley deserved it for embarrassing him years ago. He said watching her pretend to be happy while dying inside at every couple photo was the most satisfying thing he ever experienced. I stood in that kitchen processing what I just heard. 8 months of my life. 8 months of believing I was loved. 8 months of building something I thought was real. All of it was a performance designed to hurt my best friend through me. I was never the point. I was the weapon. Sutton used my heart to wound someone else and didn't care about the damage he did to me in the process. I walked out of the kitchen and straight past Sutton without looking at him. He called my name, but I kept walking. I left the party and drove home in silence. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just felt something inside me turn off like a switch. Whatever I felt for Sutton evaporated the moment I understood what he had done. I couldn't love someone who never existed. The version of him I loved was a character he played. The real Sutton was someone who used people as tools for petty revenge over a high school rejection. That person deserved nothing from me. Not anger, not tears, not even acknowledgement. I decided to give him exactly what he gave me. Nothing real. The next morning, Sutton texted asking where I went and if I was okay. I didn't respond. He called twice and I let it go to voicemail. He showed up at my apartment that afternoon looking confused and worried. I opened the door and looked at him like I was looking at a stranger. I said hi and asked if I could help him with something. He stared at me and asked what was wrong. I said nothing was wrong. He asked why I left the party without telling him. I said I was tired and went home. He asked why I wasn't answering his messages. I said I was busy. He asked if we could talk about whatever was bothering me. I said there was nothing to talk about. Then I asked again if there was something he needed because I had things to do. The confusion on his face was almost satisfying. He expected anger or confrontation or tears. He expected to have a dramatic conversation where he could explain or apologize or manipulate his way back into my good graces. Instead, he got nothing. He got politeness you would give a delivery person. He got distance you would maintain with an acquaintance you barely knew. He asked what happened to us. I asked what he meant by us. He said our relationship. I tilted my head and said I wasn't sure what relationship he was referring to. I said if he needed something specific, I was happy to help, but otherwise I really did have things to handle today. His face shifted from confusion to something that looked like panic. Hashtag. He stood there in the doorway trying to process what just happened. I could see him working through it, trying to figure out where he went wrong in the script he expected me to follow. I stepped back and pushed the door closed in one smooth motion. The lock clicked. I walked back to my kitchen and picked up my tea. My hands were steady. That surprised me because I thought confronting him would make me shake or cry. Instead, I just felt empty in a way that wasn't even sad. More like the feeling you get when you finish cleaning out a closet. The next evening, Sutton rang my doorbell holding expensive roses. He had that look on his face I used to think was sweet. Now I could see it for what it was. Calculated. Practiced. I asked if he needed to pick up any belongings. My voice was flat. The same tone I used with delivery drivers. He started saying we needed to talk. That we could work through this if I just gave him a chance to explain. I told him there was nothing to discuss and closed the door while he was mid-sentence. Over the next 3 days, my phone became a constant stream of notifications. 47 texts I read but never answered. The first day he was confused. The second day he got angry, called me cold and heartless. The third day he was pleading again with long paragraphs about love. By the end he was back to confused. I watched the whole progression like I was reading someone else's story. None of it touched me. I texted Oakley and asked if she wanted to get coffee. She deserved to know that someone weaponized her feelings and our friendship. The next morning I handed her the vanilla latte and we talked about normal stuff for 20 minutes while I built up courage. Finally, I just said it. I explained everything I overheard at the party. Every word Sutton said to his friend about revenge and manipulation. I watched her face go completely still as I explained that Sutton dated me solely to hurt her. That he knew about her feelings for me and saw the perfect opportunity to get back at her for rejecting him in high school. She asked if I was sure. I told her other people at the party heard it too. We both cried in that coffee shop for a long time. We sat there going through every interaction that now made horrible sense. Every couple photo he insisted on posting. Every affectionate gesture he performed when she was watching. All calculated. Oakley kept apologizing, saying none of this would have happened if she'd kept her feelings to herself. I told her firmly that none of this was her fault, that Sutton was the only person responsible. 3 weeks later, Catalina cornered me at a group dinner. She admitted she was at the party and heard everything. She'd been carrying the guilt of not telling me immediately. She asked what I was going to do. I told her I wouldn't protect Sutton's reputation if people asked direct questions. Saturday morning at my usual coffee shop, I heard guitar music. Sutton was playing the song he claimed he wrote for me, looking at me and waiting for my reaction. I picked up my laptop and coffee and moved to a table on the opposite side without looking at him. Didn't acknowledge the music, just relocated like I was moving away from bright sunlight. The barista told me later he sat there for 20 minutes after I moved, just staring at his guitar. Sutton's roommate Lucian messaged asking what happened. I responded with one sentence explaining that Sutton pursued me solely to hurt my best friend, as revenge for a high school rejection. Over the next few days, Lucian stopped liking Sutton's posts entirely. Oakley and I had a difficult conversation at her apartment. She explained she was terrified of losing me completely if I didn't feel the same way, that she chose silent suffering over honesty. I told her gently but directly that I loved her as my best friend, but I didn't have romantic feelings for her, that she deserved to find someone who could love her the way she wanted. She cried but nodded, said she knew. We talked about how our friendship would look going forward. Sutton's mom called asking why her son was so depressed. I recognized where he learned his manipulation tactics. I explained that Sutton used me as a tool to hurt someone else, that deliberately breaking someone's heart for 8 months wasn't a mistake, but a choice he made every day. She tried to argue. I ended the call. At a birthday party, Catalina told everyone the truth. Her voice was shaking as she explained what Sutton admitted at the party, that the entire relationship was revenge against Oakley. The table erupted. Half the people were horrified. The other half looked skeptical, saying it sounded like drama, or he said she said. 3 people I considered good friends walked out without saying goodbye. The people who stayed moved closer. It hurt losing those friends, but I felt relieved knowing exactly who valued me enough to believe me. Sutton's late-night email was different from his other attempts. He admitted everything. He explained Oakley rejected him at junior prom and he felt humiliated for years. He said somewhere along the way he developed real feelings for me. I read it twice and noticed how he positioned himself as both villain and victim, how he centered his own pain even while apologizing. I recognized it as probably just another manipulation tactic. I hit delete. My coworker Bernadette insisted I see a therapist. In the 3rd session, something shifted. The therapist asked why Sutton's persistent attention mattered so much to me. I grew up the middle child of 5 kids. My older siblings were high achievers, and my younger siblings needed more attention. I learned early that the way to help was to not need anything. I realized I'd always thought persistent attention meant genuine care, because I never got much growing up. Sutton identified that need in me and used it perfectly. Oakley texted saying she started therapy too. She was working on understanding why she spent years pining silently, instead of expressing her feelings or moving on. She'd been going on dates with other women and seemed genuinely excited. I could see something different in her face. She looked lighter, more hopeful than I'd seen her in years. At a wedding where both Sutton and I were invited, he walked toward my table during dinner. He said my name. I kept my eyes on the person across from me and continued our conversation like I hadn't heard anything. He said my name again louder. I still didn't react. He stood there for 30 seconds before walking away. Later, I glanced across the room and saw him staring at me. I looked at him for maybe 2 seconds and felt absolutely nothing. He was just empty space. Catalina told me Sutton had moved back to his parents' house in another state. He was working at his dad's business and wasn't planning to come back. I told her I hoped he figured out whatever he needed to figure out, but mostly I was just glad he was gone. A year after everything happened, I was in a genuinely good place. I had authentic relationships with people who valued me. I had better self-awareness about my patterns and vulnerabilities. Oakley was dating someone named Riley who seemed really good for her. We'd settled into a comfortable friendship with healthy boundaries. The whole experience taught me something unexpected. The opposite of love isn't hate. It's genuine indifference. Hating Sutton would have meant he still mattered to me, but I didn't hate him. I just didn't think about him anymore. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do to someone who hurt you is simply remove them from mattering to you.